What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and today we're going to be talking about watches moving up market in 2020. That's right, guys. I think all of us have seen some companies, some watchmakers make some moves, wheel and deal, try to grab some more brand equity, and maybe charge some higher prices. So we're going to be talking about that list today, and yeah, enjoy yourself. Kick back, relax, grab a snack, and let's do it. It's 2:08 p.m. Let's get down to business. Alrighty, watches moving up market for 2020. This is always a touchy subject because a lot of us fall in love with certain watchmakers. They offer us, a certain amount of value, and then, when we see them charging more money or giving us more expensive products, it kind of maybe leaves a bad taste in some of our mouths. We maybe feel like they're turning their backs on us. But I think some watchmakers deserve to move up market, and they're giving us better products. It's not just a mere price tag. It also comes with, good products, elevated products. So that's where I think the differential is. If you're just trying to move up market by giving us a heftier price tag without altering your product at all, I think you're a jerk. But if you're moving up market by really trying new things and giving us some really elevated products, then yeah, charge us more money and then it'll be more reasonable. But the first on the list would be Oris. Okay, Oris made some moves. You could tell they were trying to kind of do a show of force, so to speak, when they released the Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot X. Titanium everywhere, this new mechanical caliber with an enormous power reserve, skeletonized, highly finished, very sporty. If that didn't get your attention, I don't know what would, because that was an absolute, hey, look at me, we're a legit watchmaker, we don't mess around, from Oris. And again, I think what got most people's attention was that it was like $7,200. So that is a big example of a company moving up market. And then now in 2020, they've kind of done it again by releasing their own in-house caliber 400 automatic movement, and they're charging more money for it, right? I mean, the watch, let's see, the Oris Aquis 400 that has that new Cal 400 movement, it's more expensive than the older Aquises, and so yeah, they're steadily moving up market, but I think Oris is being reasonable because they're also offering us better products. The next watchmaker on the list is going to be a difficult one to talk about, and I've already made an episode about it. Okay, if you want to see the episode about why Seiko is not my favorite watchmaker anymore, then click up here. Seiko's definitely moving up market. They have been steadily moving up market. Some of us, myself included, didn't want to admit it. And then, they started trying to delineate and kind of make bigger distinctions between their various product lines, Prospex, Presage, Seiko 5, and then the general Seiko. And by doing that, they've raised the price tags on some of these watches. But what's really frustrating is now they're kind of charging more for watches that have the Prospex logo on the dial, and that's about it. Like, come on, the new Seiko Alpinist, okay, it's a Prospex. $750 for a magnifier and a longer power reserve. Just get the Sarbo 17. It's a better looking watch. It doesn't have that disgusting magnifier with the white date wheel. It's just, the newer ones are ugly, they're more expensive, and not enough of an upgrade. The Sarbo 17, which, I mean, some would consider the OG Alpinist, although they were technically much older Seiko Alpinists than that one. You could still find it for around $500, and it's a much better buy, in my opinion. And then you look at other watches like the Seiko Prospex LX series, and those are around $5,000 and more, and then you're like, okay, that's actually kind of reasonable. They're giving us an elevated product, spring drive movement, better materials, better craftsmanship. It's just an all-around better package. So if they just did that, I'd be like, okay, cool. Seiko Prospex, they have spring drive movements and an all-around better build. But then when you do things like the Alpinist, okay, slap a Prospex logo on it and charge like twice the price, I just can't get behind that. And then what made it worse is they discontinued my beloved Seiko SKX, and then they gave us a downgraded product, that Seiko 5KX, which the lovers of that watch are like, no, it's not taking the place of the SKX. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, it is. How can you argue that it's not taking the place of the SKX? The SKX doesn't exist anymore, and the 5KX looks the exact same with no threaded crown, no ISO rating, a lower water resistance rating, and some ugly limited edition designs and stuff. Like, okay, do you really want to be wearing Seiko's equivalent of like an Invicta watch? Like, cool, they have Street Fighter ones and they have like Naruto ones and stuff, but like, okay, do you really want to be wearing a cartoon watch and spending more money than you would if you just bought an SKX? Not me. So yeah, you're getting a worse product with some of these Seikos, but you're paying more money, and I can't get behind that. And then when we talk about Seiko, we have to talk about Grand Seiko, and I know some of you guys are gonna be like, well, that's the same company. Well, no, it's not, because in 2019, they made changes with the higher up, corporate structure, and now Grand Seiko is much, much, much more independent. It is independent of Seiko. And where Seiko used to be, under $5,000 all day long, Grand Seiko was right around $5,000. I bet you that in the next few years, Grand Seiko is going to be exclusively 10 grand. Or at least exclusively above 5,000, for sure. Because the management over at Seiko realized they were undervaluing their pieces, right? They were giving us way too much value in their estimation, so they wanted to bump it up. And then, Orient, which is also under the umbrella of Seiko Epson Corporation. Orient can kind of take the place of Seiko, and I've made an episode explaining that up here if you want to watch that. And then Seiko is going to be maybe hovering just below where Grand Seiko was, and then Grand Seiko is going to try to compete with the Rolexes and the Omegas of the world. And let me be clear, Grand Seiko makes much better products than Rolex. I stuttered when I said that because it was almost felt naughty to say that, but Grand Seiko makes a better made watch than Rolex. There's much more man hours spent finishing a Grand Seiko than is ever put into the production of a modern Rolex, but they just don't have the same brand equity. And with this new restructuring, Grand Seiko's trying to get more brand equity and move up market, so that they have to be on the list today. Next on the list of watches moving up market in 2020, a watch company that I've actually always been fairly interested in, Frederick Constant. They're owned by Citizen, believe it or not, and Frederick Constant in turn owns Alpina, but today we're going to be talking about Frederick Constant for a little while. So they're absolutely moving up market. I remember around 3 years ago when I first started the Time Teller channel, you could find Frederick Constant's, their automatic offerings, I should say. Most of them are using modified Solitas and stuff like that. But you could find them pretty much exclusively under $1,000, just hovering under $1,000, some of which being just above $1,000. And then fast forward to 2020, 3 years later, and they have things like the classic tourbillon perpetual calendar manufacture. So it has their in-house movement, very, very complicated. It looks nice if you're into a very skeletonized watch with all these subdials and complications, and of course a tourbillon down by the 6 o'clock, and 33 joule, 38 hour power reserve, 28,800 BPH movement, FC 975 manufacture caliber. So that's their in-house offering. And remember when I said 3 years ago you could find most Frederick Constant mechanical watches for just under $1,000? Well, now this one is just under 20 grand. 19,480 big ones. Yeah, although Frederick Constant does not get a ton of attention in the watch world currently, they are absolutely making moves to go up market, for sure. All right, next up, a watch that is actually one of my favorites from 2019, but again, this was kind of their quote-unquote show of force for sure, Mont Blanc. I want to talk about the Mont Blanc pulsograph. So although this was technically released at the beginning of 2019, again, this was kind of something they released and had the watch world going, oh. You see, Mont Blanc recently, in fairly recent history, was hovering in the $2,000 range, okay? And they were making very nice looking watches. I think most people know them for their pens, myself included. Pen 15 gang. Oh, Gato's texting me. He says, I sent you the video, wanna check it. This is how we communicate, guys, it's business. Business is booming. We text each other, I send him footage, he edits it, and he's like, hey, you wanna see it? And I'm like, nah. I trust you. I'm just kidding, Gato. Gato's not a very good editor. I just want to put that out there. There's things that I wish he would do that he just doesn't do. I don't get it. Like, I want things to be snappy and fun and funny. And I feel like there's a lot of other things he can be doing that he just chooses not to do. By the way, I'm kidding. I absolutely love Gato, and he's pretty much the reason this channel is... See that?
Wow.
That's right. I couldn't do that without him. Without him, it would just be... He edits in this beard every day. It's CGI. But seriously, okay, this Mont Blanc pulsograph, salmon dial, gorgeous, gorgeous watch, dual register, incredible dial texture. This is a watch that I think most people were very impressed with, and it kind of came out of left field. I was not expecting that from Mont Blanc. They had some other really interesting watches. I think before this, they did have their world time. They did have some precious metal watches, but even so, in 2020 now, they have like rose gold world timers that are floating around $20,000. That's a far cry from their sub $5,000 catalog just a little while ago. Like not very long ago, they were exclusively under $5,000. Again, floating around that $2,000 mark. And then today we're looking at this pulsograph, and this is like $33,000. So again, companies that weren't getting a ton of attention are recently doing pretty impressive shows of force to be like, hey, watch world, pay attention to me. And we are. So guys, I have two honorable mentions that I want to finish up this episode with. And here's why they're honorable mentions, okay? Their watches are absolutely being elevated, right? They're giving us very interesting products, but their price tags aren't really moving up market along with their products. And that's actually a good thing. Okay, that's actually a very, very good thing. It means they're offering us value up front, and they're not trying to, it's just not like a huge money grab. So the first would be Timex. Timex is giving us really, really interesting watches. Like, again, their Expedition field watch chronographs and stuff with Indiglo, that's all well and good, but when they started reissuing these Marlins and these Snoopy dial watches, and then their, what was it, their Nav dive watches, the Nav XL, I think they call them. These are watches that are very, very interesting, automatic movements, mechanical, and they're doing new things and kind of not always new, right? The Marlin was actually old, but they're giving us things that actual watch enthusiasts would enjoy. So it's not just someone that's in a, you know, a Target or a Walmart that's like, oh, here's a cheap watch, I need a watch. No, I think Timex is realizing that they want to get a larger portion of actual watch geeks involved. And that's why they're reissuing these Marlins and giving us these really cool dive watches with mechanical movements. So Timex, definitely moving up market with their products, but not with their price tags, so that's a good thing. And the next one would be Yema. Yema is, you know, much more expensive than Timex, but they're giving us, you know, some watches that were big in the 1960s and 70s. They're reissuing them, they're coming back, and they're trying to make a name for themselves once again. I think Yema was a very, very prolific watchmaker, again, back in the old school days, and a lot of people don't really know that. So I think people, when they think of Yema, they're like, who's this company? From France. Oh, they use some Seiko movements, what's the big deal? Well, Yema was actually a big heavy hitter way back when, mid-60s, 70s, giving us things like the speed graph and like that LED watch. Very, very cool watches, and you can tell Yema is making a push to be with the big boys. Now, their price tags, thankfully, aren't moving up with the big boys, but I could see them trying to gain a little bit more brand equity in the watch world, so they deserve to be in the honorable mentions list. So guys, what do you think about that, and which watchmakers would you add to the list of watchmakers moving up market for 2020? Leave me a comment and I would love to hear from you. So guys, there's the Wednesday list. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, had some fun with this episode, and I hope Gato did too. Alright guys, if you learned something, give me a thumbs up. If you enjoyed yourself, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notified, and support the channel, please. We really appreciate it when you shop using our Amazon affiliate links in the description below. It's kind of that little list I have in the description. It's kind of the one-stop shop for the watch collector. There's some watch tools, watch tool kits, there's some watch straps, maybe even a watch winder there, but there's a bunch of stuff from my Amazon affiliate store you can check out. You can check out my personal website, www.thetimetellershop.com. That is the #1 place to find affordable vintage luxury watches. Excuse me, I almost missed my own pitch. Whoa. And of course, guys, please join the channel. Click the join button next to the subscribe button. You get 6 pieces of content a week, and you get access to that members-only Discord chat, which is just my favorite part of the channel. Seriously, it's so much fun. So guys, like, comment, subscribe. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. And yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. And always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.